So, before I get into this video though, I'm just going to say that there is going to be some spoilers in this video. So, there's a quick little spoiler warning in this video because I'm going to talk, a lot about this movie in this video, so just be aware. But anyway, on Thursday I recently went and saw Terrifier 3 because obviously there's a lot of hype around the Terrifier 3 movie, and after watching it, I can say it's good. Like, it's a good horror movie, honestly. Like, I think Art the Clown and the Terrifier franchise is really starting to cement their legacy of being like top horror, because Art the Clown is great. Art the Clown is probably one of the greatest slashers now in horror history. I really do believe that in Terrifier 4, if it ends up being really good, he could really cement his place in the top 4 or the Mount Rushmore of horror movie characters, because I think he is really good. I think he's a great horror villain and probably one of the best that we've seen in recent years, because his movies have been killing it. At least the first one hasn't, but the second two, or the other two, Terrifier 2 and 3, have been killing it. And it just shows with the audience. Like, when I went and saw Terrifier 3, it was completely packed out. Like, literally completely packed out. And it's been like that for the past 2 days. It was completely packed out. So, but now, out of all that out of the way, let's get to the movie itself. Now, first off, I think the movie is great, because it really does kind of explain, like, the way. Okay, so in Terrifier 1, there's a character who was dismembered by Art the Clown. Her name was Vicky, and she's back in this film, and she plays a really big role in this film because I don't know. I guess like her and Art like got together, I guess, or something. So she plays a really big part in this movie, and like she's good. I think Vicky is great in here because she kicks a lot of ass. I mean, there is some times where like it is a little bit disgusting, like the stuff she does, but she's still good though. She's still a good character in this movie. And then obviously there's Art the Clown. He kicks ass. Like, I think Terrifier 3 is probably the goriest of the franchise. Like, there's no doubt. Like, that's exactly what they were going for here, was just more gore. Now, I couldn't really find the scene where like people were throwing up to or anything. I couldn't really figure out what scene that was, because there are a lot of very brutal kills, like for example the opening scene where Art the Clown pretends to be Santa Claus, so he goes into a house, he completely hacks up a kid in half, like literally hacks off everything, his arms, his legs, his head is cut off, and then he hacks the dad like with the axe and stuff, and then of course the mom, pretty sure he hacks her in the head too and rips off her scalp. I can't really remember, honestly. I don't fully remember that scene. And then, because it is Christmas theme, he's obviously pretending to be like Santa, eating cookies and stuff. And then in the end of the scene, the little girl who ends up like, obviously having the suspicion of Santa is hiding in the cabinet, and Art sees it move, and thankfully it cuts away. We don't see the little girl get brutally murdered or anything, but we can know that she did indeed die. And there was also a little surprise cameo here. We got a little surprise cameo from Chris Jericho. He plays like a quick security guard role, and he just dies. He gets his head ripped open, his face ripped off. Like, he acts like, I was really expecting him to do something, but he doesn't. He's just there for like a quick minute and a half to just get brutally murdered, which I thought was not the best, but it was still cool to see him in there. I think he still is obviously cool. And now let's get to the actual story itself. So, it takes place 5 years after the events of Terrifier 2, with Sienna and Jonathan trying to move on from the events of Art the Clown. Jonathan is in college now, so obviously he's living the college life, and Sienna is still trying her hardest to, get rid of the memories of Art the Clown by moving in with her aunt and uncle, and then obviously there's the little one. And obviously, I think Sienna is great. I think Sienna is really a great character. I think she kicks a lot of ass. And, like, I really think she is starting to cement her place as one of the best final girls we're seeing in horror movies. Like, I really think she is good. Like, it's a lot of fun to see Sienna on screen. And obviously, Jonathan is just Jonathan. He's just, he doesn't really do a whole lot in this movie. Jonathan, he's really... He reminds me of how Karen is. Not Karen. He reminds me of how Allison is, where, Allison from the Halloween series, where she's just trying to live her own life and just completely ignore everything of Michael Myers. That's like how he is in this movie. He's just trying to completely ignore everything of Art the Clown, and I think he's good. I think he's all right. And obviously, you can't have a Terrifier film without gore. Like I say, there is an crazy amount of kills. There's an insane amount of wild kills that Art does. Obviously, there's the Christmas scene. He rips open Chris Jericho's face with Vicky, and then there's another scene where these demolition people who were going to, destroy Art's house end up finding him and Vicky, and while one guy just gets stabbed in the neck, the other guy gets his head completely ripped open, and it is brutal. It is obviously very brutal. And if you don't like to see animal torture, then that's probably going to be sad for you, because they kill rats in this movie, and they show it happen too, where they kill rats, and it's brutal. It's very brutal. And then of course there's the Santa bar scene where Art the Clown shoots 2 people, and then in like a very brutal way he kills the Santa by freezing him and then just like punching off his skin, and I think it's brutal. It's obviously very brutal. Probably the craziest part of this movie, though, or one of them, I'd say, because I think this other part I'm about to say is crazy. But Art the Clown is obviously pretending to be Santa, and I think it's kind of weird though how like no one's like suspicion that like this clown dressed as Santa, who has like all this red stuff all over him, is just in this mall, and obviously he has a bag, and I was expecting like him to pull out like an AK or a Tommy gun or something, but no, he actually just has a bag full of toys. And while obviously all the kids are getting the toys, one of the kids decides to get too greedy, and he finds a present in there that's a box. And I was expecting something to happen, but nothing that actually happened, because what actually happens is insane. It's wild. Anyway, so the kid, obviously Art gets kicked out by the security guard, but the kid's still trying to open the present, and then he opens the present, and there's just a giant explosion. Like, it's insane. It's actually wild how it just comes out of nowhere. Just a giant explosion, like, just happening out of nowhere. And I think it is crazy. I think it is absolutely wild. And then after that, it's just like Sienna really begins to have a breakdown because of Art. And then also there's these college roommates that Jonathan meets. I don't remember the names, but they also get brutally murdered. Like, just completely brutally murdered. And honestly, though, I think they're kind of weak parts of the film. I don't really like them. Well, at least, I forgot the boyfriend's name. But the boyfriend, I think, is chill. But it's just, I really do think, though, that the girlfriend was kind of just boring. Because, like, she's one of those podcasters who's trying to get Jonathan and Sienna to talk about the events of Art the Clown, even though, like, they're clearly trying to move on from it. And I really didn't like her. I thought she was just not interesting at all. She's just really boring. And then she gets brutally murdered by Art. But that bathroom scene, though, the shower scene is probably the craziest part of the film, because, like, it's kind of hard to kind of explain without getting age restricted what happens in there. But the guy, the boyfriend, he gets brutalized, like, just completely brutalized. And, like, it's kind of hard to, like, explain it without it sounding weird, but basically Art sticks a chainsaw, down there in that area, and you see it very explicitly happen, and it's just brutal. It's insanely brutal. Now, obviously, those are the good parts of the film. Obviously, Art being funny and Sienna just kicking ass. I think that's good. And now let's kind of get into some of the more bad parts of the film. Like, for example, I think the ending part is really just kind of strange, because it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because the little girl, I think her name is her name Katie? I can't remember. I don't remember, but the little girl there. Oh no, it's Gabby. I think it's Gabby. I really can't remember. I actually don't remember her name, but I'm gonna assume her name is Gabby. But Gabby is obviously Art and Vicky. They managed to get their hands on Sienna and tie her up, obviously, while the aunt is also there, and she also gets brutalized by Art putting a tube in her mouth and then sticking rats in there, and the rats crawl out. And then Gabby is just there. And there's a little twist reveal, which I'll get to in a minute. But anyway, Gabby is just there, and, Sienna brings in, like, a box present, and, like, one thing about Gabby on Christmas is that, like, she's one who likes to get into, like, the presents by opening them and then just rewrapping them. And then she ends up opening and rewrapping the present because she ends up wanting to open that last present, and they actually let her, and she gives it to Sienna, and like I can immediately tell that like, oh, this is a sword or something, because of course she knows, because she opened the present, and we get to see Sienna kicking a lot more ass. They get into a really good fight scene where Art and Sienna just like start clashing off. Sienna's got the sword while Art has the chainsaw, and I think it is really good. I think it is really good, really good. And then, Vicky, her head gets chopped off, and then her blood starts like melting into this like weird, like I don't know. It's like the blood of Vicky. I thought she was gonna like morph her head back on or something, but it's kind of weird, honestly. And this movie does also explain though that Art and Vicky are completely supernatural. Like they're not like Michael Myers, where there's a possibility they can be supernatural, but they're still human. No, like Art and Vicky are completely supernatural, because like I said in the beginning scene with Chris Jericho, Art's head is completely ripped off. You know, this takes place, or some of these events, some of things that happen here take place after Terrifier 2, where Art gets his head knocked off, and his whole body, no head, is just moving without his head. So it clearly shows that Art and Vicky are completely supernatural, because while they're in the house, Vicky is in the bathroom, and she takes a glass piece and cuts her wrist, and obviously that would kill anyone, but it doesn't kill Vicky. It doesn't kill her. So obviously Art and her are completely supernatural. But anyway, back to where Vicky gets her head cut off. She gets her head cut off, her blood spills out, and it starts to like fizz and stuff. And then all of a sudden an actual portal to hell opens, and Gabby just falls in there. And for some reason though, like Sienna, like even though it doesn't really look like she's that far, for some reason Sienna tries to use the sword. Like she grabs the blade and then has to have Gabby hold on to the end of it and tries to save her that way, which I thought was just really stupid, because it looked very reachable. Yet she still decided to use that, and then obviously she doesn't save her and she falls into hell. And I really didn't think that was that good or anything. No, I wouldn't say it's like anything bad though. Like it's not really anything too terrible. But I do think there is something in here that is just straight up bad. Like something that just actually I hated so much. So anyway, back to the whole scene where Sienna and the aunt are tied up by Art and Vicky. There's a head in the middle, and it's assumed that this head is Gabby's head. So they reveal the head, and it ends up being obviously a head, you know, a skull, but it doesn't actually reveal who it is because it's completely scalloped by rats. And then we're led to believe that it's Gabby, but it's not. It ends up not being her because they show her a little bit later, and then all of a sudden Art puts glasses on the head, and they're trying to say that that's Jonathan. And if that is really Jonathan, Jesus Christ, like that is such a horrible thing to make, because if that's actually Jonathan, like I find it really hard to believe that they actually killed one of the most important characters to this movie just off screen. Like what I was expecting Jonathan and actually I think the uncle was dead. I'm not sure. Like he kind of just disappears too. Like he goes to pick up Jonathan and then he just disappears for the film. He's just gone. Like there's no explaining to what happened to him. But Jonathan, I was expecting him to just come out of nowhere and start beating the shit out of Art or something, or at least shooting him. But if they actually kill Jonathan off screen, my God, is that such a terrible move, because he is a very important character to this film and last film. He plays a big part in it. And if they really just killed him off screen like that, my God, is that a horrible decision. And I think it is just one thing about the film that is just straight up bad. Like there's nothing good about it. It's completely bad that if they actually did, they really killed one of the most important characters off screen. Even though it sets up like a scene where it seems like he's gonna come out of nowhere and save Sienna, but no, they just kill him off screen. So I really didn't like that. But besides that though, I think Terrifier 3 is good. I think it is pretty good. I do think it is probably the best of the trilogy. It's kind of hard to make a Terrifier film that's worse than the first. But yeah, besides that, Terrifier 3, it's good. And I suggest you go give it a watch. But yeah, that's about it. I'm out of here.